Specular settings are pretty easy. At this point, we've covered some of the maps that you're going to be using, and a few more still have yet to be covered. We've covered diffuse a lot. That's just your color. And real quickly on this particular model, here's my diffuse map, so nothing too special. And our specular map we're going to cover in this video. Our self-illumination map, or our ambient occlusion map, which will look like this in the long run, that's covered in the next video, and we're going to use render to texture for that. And down here under bump, we have a normal map in this, and we've covered normal maps, and this is what our normal map looks like for our little gas pump. Now let's talk about the specular map. I'm going to go ahead and drag out the specular map here so you can see it, and I'm just going to make it a copy. This is my specular map, and the whiter settings, let's zoom in here, the settings that are closer to white on this will be shinier or reflect more light back at us, and the areas that are closer to dark or black will reflect back less. So we can control where the highlights will be on our object. We usually make these maps over in Photoshop, and I've already shown you a few examples over in Photoshop and how to make these, but applying them is what we're covering here in this video. Okay, let's go back to our shader. And if we scoot up here, remember our specular highlights are usually controlled in this area. By putting a map in this slot, Max has now said there's a map, or an M will appear in this button that's controlling our highlights. I'm going to drag this blank button over that button. You'll see that it's removed it down here. So no M here means no map here. You can put it in either slot. You can either click here and put your specular map in, and it'll just appear down here. Or you can go through this slot like we've been doing, and the little M will appear here. They're both linked. But now I have no specular map to control my highlights, and I have no specular level. If I raise this up, you'll see that I get a specular highlight here. And if I render this, now I'm getting a specular highlight on my model, and we can see it better if we turn off our diffuse. Here we go. We're getting a specular highlight on our model, but it's just controlling the entire specular of the model itself. So it's like we have one shiny model. We're not able to really control where the specular is. Now if I put my map, and in this case I'll go through this button here, since we haven't done that before, I'll put my specular in this one, and you'll see again here, go one level up, we've got a map, and it shows up here. It doesn't matter what I put in the specular level. You'll see no change up here. But now I'm able to control where the highlights are, and so some areas are going to be dulled down. It's subtle, and if you missed it there, it didn't look like it did a lot, but what it's doing is controlling certain areas to reflect back and others not. Now the glossiness setting here still works. You'll see the highlight changing up here, because we don't have a glossiness map. If we want, we can drag the specular down here to the glossiness channel. I'll make it an instance. And now we have a map in our glossiness setting, and if we render this, we're going to control where the glossiness is using our specular map. And I'll go ahead and add my diffuse back in here and render this. And now what we're doing is we're controlling where the glossiness and the specular are. For the most part in games, you're going to get to use a specular map, and the glossiness setting will be set through the programming of the lights. But for your renders, you can use your specular map in the specular level and the glossiness channel, and you'll probably get some better results.